Today, I wanted to talk about alignments, like aligning with certain frequencies, especially when it comes to in behavior. I got thinking about this because I get a lot of questions like, um, well, is it selfish to feel good about helping others? Or like, is it ego? A lot of the, is it something or? Is it love or is it addiction? Is it, um, fill in the blank really? Is it blame or is it awareness? That one came an example of that. Dishwasher. um, I laugh because I think a lot of people have a lot of learning opportunities around how the dishwasher is loaded in their home. But if you have two people who live together and the dishwasher is smelling like milk rotting and one person does not eat dairy, it's fairly obvious that the person who does is, well, obvious to me. This the source of the smell. And so I was trying to point this out to somebody and we got to have a cool conversation about like this isn't a blame thing. Like I'm not mad. I don't care about it that much, but if we do want it to not smell, which we both agreed we did prefer it not to smell like that, then it helps to know what the source is. So there's awareness. There's awareness that okay, maybe the cereal dish isn't getting rinsed. Uh again, it's not that big of a deal, but sometimes like we'll hear somebody, we'll have a conversation like that, and why is it that we get so defensive? Like do we hear, oh hey, that that's you, I guess, like it's always kind of helpful to have conversations where you're not like you if you're wanting something to change, but sometimes it is you, right? And so like how do we deal with that on both sides? Like if you're the person pointing it out to somebody else, how do we make sure that we're aligned with awareness and not blame? um I think for me the simple answer is I ask for help from my guidance, and I know that not everybody believes in a higher power or God or whatever. So I think when I was really struggling with that, somebody said to me, "Can you believe in like the highest aspect of yourself?" And they talked about mountain climbing and how, but in really like extreme mountain climbing conditions, she got to a point where like she really did not believe that she could keep going, but she did, and there was like an aspect of herself that kicked in, like a strength that she didn't know she had. And so that was what I worked with to start with, and I found it really helpful. And so that's what I would suggest for you if you're like, I don't know if there's a God. um, though I sense that if you're listening to my videos, you probably are open to the idea of working with spirits, since that's what I do and what these videos are about. But still, that doesn't mean that you're not grappling with it on the logic conscious level. Um, so yeah, so asking for help is the big things. Love or addiction, that was one I was wound up on for so long. Is it love or is it addiction? Is it love or is it addiction? And it was so wonderful when my teacher, she was new to me then, was like, it's probably both. Like, like there's probably love there and addiction, it sounds like. And for some reason that was so freeing because I no longer was trying to figure it out. I could just go, oh, okay. And then, I can work with guidance now on cleaning that up, like removing the addiction from my love. Love is, I think, something that's been a bit manipulated for a lot of people. uh our ideas of it, gosh, I had a relative once say to me that we were talking about obligation, and I don't remember what I said, but she said, I think all love turns to obligation at a certain point. I was like, oh, yeah, like, ew, like I really do not like it when I feel like somebody is doing something for me out of a sense of obligation instead of that they want to. And so I think we were talking about God at the time. This relative is very religious, which is not always like structured in that sort of belief system, but I think often is. And it just really got me thinking. I was like, I don't ever really want somebody to do something for me out of a sense of obligation. So would I think that God would like that? So that was really interesting. It sort of helped me free myself from a lot of my religious training. Um, and belief systems. But like love also often for people has abuse entwined in it, or demands, all kinds of stuff. And the point of what I'm saying is that it can be really helpful to acknowledge that maybe our love could use some cleaning up, the frequency, like that they might be together, that it's not an either or. And so I find that asking my guidance to help is super helpful. And so I would put that to you. If you're confused, if it's one or the other, well, it's probably both and probably a lot more things. And we can start to ask for that to be cleaned up. But another one I get is that people talk about service and like, is it ego or selfish if I feel good about doing this service? Well, it could be, or it could be self-esteem. Are those the same or are they different? I think they're different. I mean, I wasn't at all familiar with the concept really of self-love. I thought that like thinking anything good about myself was just like ego and it was a bad thing. But I mean, I don't know if I was really actually taught that in school or if I misinterpreted it because I was like so little when I started going to Catholic school. Like I've heard that the age of reason is 7. So if you start school when you're in preschool and you're getting these ideas of like sin and hell, you know, like it's no wonder I was confused. But I mean, those messages didn't stop when I got older either. Um, so we might have some ideas that are not accurate, and it's not just ideas, it's frequencies. If we hold frequencies of self-doubt, self-punishment, anything that's not love, it can be very confusing, because especially if we're trying to say, is it this or is it that? Well, you're feeling both of them, you're experiencing both of them. So I think we can then ask ourselves, what do I want it to be? What do I want to feel? Do I even know what self-worth feels like? And if not, asking our guidance to help bring it in. So what we're going to do today is a little bit of that. Well, I call it rewiring. We're going to work with some response patterns that will hopefully make it a little easier to help draw in some of these higher frequencies. So we'll start with preparing to work. So if you're not familiar with me, if you're not sure you want my guidance working in your energy, which I encourage you not to be sure if this is your first time watching my video, set your intention to observe. And that's all it will be. You'll just be watching me talk. And then if you think what I'm saying might be something where you would like my guidance to work with your guidance, to work with your energy, watch it again and set your intention to participate. And that's how it works, is my guidance communicates with your guidance and works in your energetic system. And that happens outside of space and time. So you can watch this video whenever and have an experience with spirit, even though I'm sitting here recording it on the day that I'm sitting here recording it. And spirit knows, like there's no such thing as time and space and spirit. So spirit knows who's going to watch this and what you need. So first I want to prepare, and that includes asking that I be working with guidance that's 100% benefit to me. That means a lot of things, but it includes beings of the highest level of consciousness, who are also clear of all programs, not running any like discordant programming or trauma or agendas. I use Robert Dutzler's term, clear to the highest level of radiant love. And that all of the beings on my committees, because I work with what Robert called a high self committee. So it's more than just my divine self. It's, let's see, today it's me plus 8. And I'm dowsing. If you're wondering what I'm doing with my hands, I made some notes that I'm looking at from time to time, and I'm dowsing with the pendulum that is not made of crystals. I'm not asking crystals. I see this in the crystal stores sometimes. They're like, ask the pendulum. And I'm like, I'm not asking the pendulum. I'm using the pendulum. I'm allowing my guidance to work with my ideomotor system. I'm not really, anyway, my spiritual guidance is coming in through my crown chakra and moving my arm and hand. And in the pendulum, like I have a system of charts, or like just now I just use the numbers on my keyboard to ask a number and dowsed for that. So yeah, preparing. We want to be working with the highest level of radiant love and have a committee that's 100% benefit to us. Sometimes our committees need some upgrades, whether that be because we have like blocking or limiting programming that's like, no, I don't deserve the best help, or I want to work with this particular being, even though maybe we've outgrown each other, or, like a million reasons why we might need to upgrade a committee. Um, and so we'll do that. And we're also setting some grids around the space. Whew. If you feel like taking a deep breath, please do. Like I just felt that sort of ground me. And I prepared myself before I started, but when I start working with everybody else, sometimes I'll feel things that kind of let me know to slow down or take a pause. Um, I'm asking a few other things like I've also started in my preparation asking for soul education. I'm the word soul, honestly, I have multiple lineages that use it differently, so it's confusing even for me. Um, I'm going to say all aspects of myself education. Um, the highest aspect of ourself is never injured and doesn't do codependence, but there are many levels that do, including the one that has been responsible for choosing a lot of our incarnations. There really are no victims in spirit. Like we all chose to incarnate here for a certain kind of learning, but there's a part of us that did that does choose our incarnations that did experience injury, and it's why sometimes we can birth ourselves into like really difficult lives. um and it's why we have a lot of uh, structures, etheric structures in our etheric energy system, um to limit our abilities, to limit our ability to communicate with our guidance. So this whole preparation that we're doing, and like probably if I wasn't talking through steps of it, it would be going a lot faster, but it can actually be very much life-changing just to do this, to like be working with the highest level of guidance, to ask for all blocks and interference to be removed. And when I say all, it's like maybe not all that you have in all of your existence, but it's all that are like in play right now. um when I talk about running programs, it's kind of like on your computer. Like you might have a bunch of programs on your computer, but you've only got like 4 of them open. So we're really only working with what's open and running at the time. And that's largely because we're not physically capable of working with all of it at the same time. Working with energy does have a physical effect. Uh, so yeah, today also be mindful afterwards of like good self-care, lots of hydration, maybe going to bed a little bit early, not drinking alcohol. I haven't tried it, but I have heard that you can get like really drunk uh, on way less than you normally would. So yeah, so maybe don't participate in the healing part of this if you're going out tonight and do want to have alcohol, and do that later. Let's see. I'm also asking spirit to clean the space. A lot of our processing energy kind of sits in the room with us, and there is an element of spiritual hygiene, both for our own selves and for our space that we're in. There's a lot of shifting going on the planet right now, so there's a lot. I'm let's see. I'm just gonna ask guidance to come in. There's like whole teams that work with like repairing fields and spatial history, spatial memory. You know, our houses or apartments or whatever we're sitting in right now have been here for a pretty small amount of time in terms of Earth history. And sometimes there have been like battles fought on the ground we're on, or there were religious ceremonies for that, like did human sacrifice or something. Like I've seen some, like a whole bunch of stuff that's like spatial, and so it can be really helpful to have that addressed. So I'm just going to ask guidance if we're ready to go forward. Okay. So what guidance suggested to me today to do is changing. We're going to start with changing response patterns. In some ways, that's like it sounds, the way we respond to life, whether it's responding to a conversation or responding to not getting a job or responding to being cut off in traffic or responding to waking up in the morning. a lot of that has to do with, I call it just wiring. And I mean, I grew up in a construction family, so I that analogy really works for me. And also, I'm fairly familiar with the meridian system from traditional Chinese medicine, but I mean, well, that's who knew about it for a long time. It's in all of us. Um, and you can look that up. You'll find images online. It is lines, energy flows. And so like a lot of times the pathways will be, you know, if we've got one running down this way, it might be broken or it might be frazzled a little. And sometimes we'll use our hands a little to help spirit like reconnect it. Um, but the question is, why was it frazzled or broken? And that's usually consciousness. And so what we can do here together, even though I can't touch your arm, is work on the consciousness of why it's broken. And what we're going to be doing today, spirit will be able to mend for you without me being in the room with you. Let's see. So we are going to change response patterns from abandonment and sabotage to peace and courage. And oftentimes to do things, we have to do some sort of transformational statement where we would maybe forgive ourselves or others, or we might have to change a belief system, or we might maybe rescinding vows and contracts from this and other lifetimes. But today we don't have to do that. We just are asking spirit. Sometimes just talking about it is enough to kind of tap into the energy so that spirit can make it move. So let me ask. Okay, so that is complete. Now spirit wants to do soul mediation, which is like it sounds like going to court and having a mediator. We are always in relationship with other souls, like because what our life is such a small fraction of what our soul is doing. There's all kinds of like connections and things being organized and facilitated or hindered in levels of consciousness that we're not necessarily aware of in this life. But if we can start to become more so or work with that, we can kind of move mountains in the way that our life is expressing. So I said before, there are no victims. When we're in a relationship where we might find ourselves in like an abusive relationship in this lifetime, let me think of, I feel like I just had like 8 directions I could go with this. So sometimes we're needing to learn how to leave the relationship, but also sometimes like physically like not be around that person anymore. Other times there's an energetic setup that sort of sets the person up to be abusive to us, and when we can shift our energy, that relationship will change. And I certainly wouldn't I do not want to suggest that anybody like stay in a relationship that feels abusive hoping that will happen. If you're clear that a relationship is abusive, trust you, you know, but like but if you feel like the whole world is abusing you, that might have a lot more to do with like what your belief systems are setting up for you to experience. For example, on belief systems, I had some health issues a while back. My gallbladder was sick. I ended up having it removed, but I was really trying to avoid that, mostly because I was not getting great medical care at the time. And also because as I kind of had to get over like the sense that as a healer, I was a failure if I had to have my gallbladder removed. I maybe could do a whole video on that because I learned a lot through the process, but as it became clear with that I probably was going to have it removed, and then just in life in general, like I really wanted to have better medical care, and I spent quite a while working on consciousness to align with optimal medical care. like my mom is just somebody who's like always like she doesn't do a lot of research. Like she'll maybe ask a friend who their doctor is, or somebody will suggest like a massage therapist that helped them with a car accident, and she'll go to them and they're like these like phenomenal practitioners that are like so good. And my mom's like whole medical care throughout her life has been like that. Like and I was like, my mom is like aligned with really good medical care. Like I want that. And I worked on it and I had a lot of beliefs about like what I deserved that had to be changed. And I mean, it was months and months and maybe more than a year that I was working on it. So it was a lot to unpack. But so and abuse is kind of like that too. Like there's not just like one answer in it. Um, let me pause for a second. Okay. So, in terms of soul relationships, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with courting and attachments. Those are two kinds of energetic connections that we can have with people who sometimes we live with, sometimes they're in a different state, sometimes they're not even alive and we don't even know them in this lifetime. But we have these codependent energetic exchanges that are very much affecting us. Like, uh, is for example, a baby whose mom is depressed will be like, okay, I'll, I need you to stay alive and not kill yourself so that I can survive. So the baby will take on the mom's depression and suicide and start giving the mom their life force. Growing up, they're still doing that through these cords and attachments, and it's obviously going to not be great for their life. So much of this work is ours to do. The why do I believe I need to give that energy away or take that on? However, sometimes, because it's all a co creation, sometimes it is helpful to have spirit work with the other soul and do what we're going to do today, which is mediation. Usually begins with education, like that, oh, actually, that's not beneficial to either party. We can let that go. Uh, and and sometimes we really do need to like there's actually beings that do this. There are soul family counselors and mediators that will work with the soul, or multiple souls, to educate and mediate. And so that is what guidance is doing right now if you're participating. Okay, so guidance says that we're done with the soul mediation. I'm just looking at my notes. Okay, and now we're going to go a step farther out and we're going to have our guidance ask, so of the beings that we were just meet in mediation with, we're going to ask their highest selves if they want to participate, because this is always choice. We never want to act like we know better than another soul does about their experience, because it's maybe somebody wants to be alcoholic, maybe somebody wants to be something that we judge and like assume nobody would ever want that. Well, things look different in spirit. um or like any other time in maybe in my life, like there were times I just wasn't ready to grow, right? And people can tell you all they want that that's maybe not the best choice or the best habit, and it's still like we're only ready when we're ready. So for many reasons we never want to like think we know better than somebody else about their own life. So today, as we're working with all these other souls that we're in relationship, we're going to ask for the we're asking the divine selves of the beings that you guys are in relationships with if they want to participate too. And if they do, then we're preparing them to work also. And guidance has been doing this while I've been talking. And now then we're going to re-educate the multidimensional selves of one step out. Like not just you guys who are watching the video, but the people that you're in relationship with who want to participate are now getting soul education. And the education, like the kind of key points that guidance is focusing on right now, are re-educating from patterns of fatigue, abandonment, and unhappiness to wholeness, understanding, and awareness. Okay. I'm getting that that is complete. And by complete, your guidance might still be working on you in terms of like mending the pathways, rewiring for a while. But the part that we need to consciously participate in and know what I've been talking about, um, is we're done with that. So we're going to ask guidance to set us up for integration today. Um, which is a lot. Like you might be getting a massive amount of work done right now. It sounds, sometimes we just talk through it and it's really fast, but like there's actually like layers and layers of etheric surgery being done and cording and attachments being removed and overlays. Overlays are like where I did this. I had a lot of livers, like from my ancestral lineage of alcoholics, and liver is where liver, the virtue of liver is happiness, but the discordant, when it's overloaded and not processing optimally, uh, is anger. So I had like taken on the etheric or livers of a bunch of my ancestors, believing that I needed to process their anger and alcoholism for them. And I had a lot of anger in my life. It was not an easy or enjoyable life most of the time. And part of my process was learning that a lot of that was not mine. What was mine to do was, why did I agree to take it on? Um, and then giving it back, and having spirit remove it for me, and rewire all the meridians that go through the organs. When I say energetic template, that is a little bit like it sounds like, if you think of like chicken wire, or like if you have graph paper, it's like the shape of a liver. Every organ has one. And so in the etheric layer of the body, or the etheric template layer of the body, we have an etheric organ. And in my case that I just mentioned, I had many etheric livers. Sometimes we need to repair one. Like when I had my gallbladder removed, my physical gallbladder, I needed to make sure I still had an etheric gallbladder so that I could draw in the virtue, which is bravery and courage, and process out what would be resentment if it gets out of balance. Um, if you're interested in this kind of thing, lungs are like, dignity is a virtue, grief is what it processes. Our reproductive organs are what draws in our vitality. Large intestine, forgiveness. Small intestine is about taking in resources. Um, the pancreas is like, in traditional Chinese medicine, they call it the governor, because it kind of regulates all the others. Also, there's the whole aspect of like taking in the sweetness of life, which is kind of easy to remember because the pancreas regulates sugar on a physical level. Um, and then too, sometimes when one gets really overloaded, like a liver might overflow into a different organ that's not set up to process anger, and that's when we need to get help from our guidance to remove the anger from, say, the reproductive system. Um, so there's a lot that guidance can do when we let them. And so the work that we just did today was tapping into enough consciousness that guidance can do a bunch of this physical stuff for you. Well, when I say physical, etheric stuff for you. And everything that happens in the physical happens in the etheric first, but much, much, much slower. So like, never will this is not meant to replace medical treatment. My teacher, I just think this phrase is so helpful, like, because there are people who are going to try to cure their cancer with other means, and I've heard of people doing it, and it's everybody's choice. But what my teacher said that I thought was just really simple and wise was, yes, cancer is consciousness, but if you want to be in your body long enough to address all the consciousness that it is, you're probably want to take medical treatment. And it's also a lot to ask somebody who's really sick to transform consciousness. So never feel like taking medical support is a failure, like I did, hopefully. I don't know if saying that ever actually helps. Like, I think we might all have to walk through it on our own if we're working with those belief systems. But yeah, medicine is from spirit too. And maybe if it's not going well, it could also, like me, I was really aligned with bad medical care, like because of my own issues with self-punishment and other programming that I had to work through. But yeah, I just want to reiterate this work is not meant to replace medical treatment. Um, but I do think it's important that we understand that things happen in the energetic systems, that the physical system is built on the energetic system. There's a reason we call it a template. It's like stucco on chickenware. Um, yeah, so I think that's enough for today. I just want to check that we're all set up for integration. Guidance is going to still be working on you on that etheric template level for about 10 minutes. Take it easy for about 2 days. Try to not drink for like one. Maybe don't get any energy work like Reiki or other stuff for like 4 days. Just kind of letting what they're doing, you know, like leaving the bandage on, I guess, because it is etheric surgery. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments and I would be happy to talk about them. I think that's it. I think that's enough for today. Okay, have a great day. Thanks for coming.